Daeho Kim stood in the massive council chamber, feeling very small. The ceiling stretched high above him, designed for beings much larger than humans. Around the circular room, alien representatives sat in their special chairs, each one made for their different body types. Some were tall and thin, others were wide and covered in scales. A few had too many eyes, and one had tentacles instead of arms. At the center of it all sat Ambassador Kexthaner. The Veltharian was 12 feet tall with blue-gray skin that looked like stone. His forearms moved slowly as he spoke, and his voice was deep like thunder. When he looked down at Daeho, his large black eyes showed no warmth at all. "Commander Kim," the ambassador said, his words careful and slow. "Your species has served the Galactic Council well in the past. You are ... useful soldiers." Daeho kept his face blank. He had heard this before. Humans were good at fighting and dying. That was how most aliens saw them. They were tools to be used when the job was too dangerous for more important species. "We have a mission for you," Kexthaner continued. "There's an old ship floating in the void sector. 3 teams have gone to study it. None came back. A hologram appeared in the air above them. It showed a dark region of space filled with twisted metal and broken ships. In the center was something huge and black. The image was not clear, but Daeho could see it was bigger than any ship he had ever seen. "The ship is very old," said another alien, this one with green skin and 6 arms. "Our computers cannot tell us who built it, but it is dangerous. Each team we sent was destroyed." Daeho nodded. "What do you want us to do?" "Find out what happened to our teams," Kexthaner said. "Learn what is on that ship, get information we can use." The human commander understood. They wanted him and his team to go die while gathering data. The aliens would watch from far away and learn from their deaths. It was not the first time humans had been given a suicide mission. "We will need a good ship and supplies," Daeho said. Kexthaner made a sound that might have been laughter. "You will get what you need, nothing more." 2 hours later, Daeho met his team at the docking bay. They stood next to the ship the council had given them. It was small and old, with patches welded over holes in the hull. The engines looked ready to break down, and the weapons were basic at best. Lee was looking at the ship's computer systems. She was 29 years old and one of the best engineers Daeho had ever worked with. Her short black hair was already messy from crawling around inside the ship's control panels. "This is garbage," she said, not looking up from her work. "Half the systems don't work right. The other half are about to break." Taemin Park was checking their medical supplies. He was older than Bioram, with gentle eyes and steady hands. As their medic, he had saved more lives than Daeho could count. Right now, he looked worried. "They gave us medicine for basic injuries," Taemin said. "Nothing for serious problems. If someone gets badly hurt out there, ... He did not finish the sentence. They all knew what he meant. So Jin Choi was examining their weapons. She was the youngest of the group at 27, but she was deadly with any gun or blade. Her dark eyes were angry as she looked through their equipment. "Basic plasma rifles," she said. "Old ones. Some explosive charges, but not many. If we run into real trouble, we won't be able to fight our way out." Daeho was not surprised. The council wanted them to gather information, not survive. They had been given just enough equipment to get to the target, but not enough to come home. "We knew this would happen," he told his team. "The council sees us as disposable. But we're not dead yet. We'll do the job our way." Bioram stood up and wiped grease from her hands. "I can fix most of the problems with this ship. It won't be pretty, but it will work." "Good," Daeho said. "How long do you need?" "Give me 6 hours." "Maybe 8. You have 4, Daeho said. "They want us gone as soon as possible." As Bioram went back to work, Taemin approached Daeho. "Commander, do you really think we can survive this?" Daeho looked out at the stars through the docking bay's big window. Somewhere out there was a ship that had killed every team sent to find it. The council expected his team to die just like the others. "I don't know," he said honestly. "But we're humans. We don't die easy." 4 hours later, their ship was ready. It still looked terrible, but Ram promised it would fly. The team gathered in the tiny common area for their final briefing. "The void sector is 3 days away," Deho said, showing them a star map. "According to the records, the first team disappeared 4 months ago. The second team vanished 2 months later. The third team was lost just 3 weeks ago." "What kind of teams were they?" Sojin asked. "All alien crews. Mostly Veltharians and Zephyrians. Each ship had about 20 crew members, all experienced space explorers." Taemin frowned. 20 crew members each, and none survived? What could do that? That's what we're going to find out, Deho said. Ram pulled up more data on her tablet. "I've been studying the reports. Each team sent regular messages for the first few days. Then ... nothing, no distress calls, no emergency signals. They just stopped talking." "Could be equipment failure," Sojin suggested. "On 3 different ships?" Ram shook her head. "Not likely." Deho closed the star map. "Whatever is out there, it's dangerous. But we have one advantage the other teams didn't have." "What's that?" Taemin asked. "We're human. We think differently than the aliens. We solve problems they can't solve. We survive things they can't survive." Sojin smiled grimly. "Because we're too stupid to know when we should die?" "Because we're too stubborn to die when we should," Deho corrected. They launched an hour later. As their small ship left the station, Deho watched the massive alien vessels through his window. The Council's ships were beautiful and powerful, with smooth hulls and advanced weapons. His ship looked like junk next to them, but as they jumped to hyperspace, Deho felt something the aliens never expected him to feel: hope. They had sent him to die, but he planned to disappoint them. Behind them, on the Council station, Ambassador Kexthaner watched their ship disappear into hyperspace. He turned to his aide, a smaller Veltharian with nervous eyes. "How long do you think they will survive?" the aide asked. "Perhaps a week," Kexthaner said. "Humans are surprisingly hard to kill, but they are still just humans. Whatever destroyed the other teams will destroy them too. And then we will learn from their deaths, just as we learned from all the others. Humans are remarkably good at dying in useful ways." The ambassador walked away, already forgetting about the 4 humans he had just sent to their deaths. But in the dark space ahead, something ancient was waiting. Something that had been sleeping for a very long time, and it was about to wake up. 3 days in hyperspace gave the team time to prepare. Ram worked on their ship's systems, making them run better than they had in years. Taemin studied medical data about alien species, trying to guess what they might find. Sojin cleaned and checked their weapons over and over. Deho reviewed every piece of information they had about the void sector. When they dropped out of hyperspace, they found themselves in a graveyard. "By all the stars," Taemin whispered, staring at the main screen. Pieces of ships floated everywhere. Around them, some chunks were as big as buildings, others as small as cars. All of them were twisted and broken, as if something had torn them apart with giant hands. The metal was dark and covered with strange marks that looked almost like bite marks. "Those are the missing ships," Ram said, her voice quiet. "All 3 of them." Sojin was already scanning for threats. "I'm not picking up any active weapons. Or enemy ships. Whatever did this is either gone or hiding." Deho piloted their ship carefully through the debris field. Every few minutes, they passed pieces that still had writing on them. Names of ships, crew numbers, warning signs in different alien languages. All that was left of 60 highly trained explorers. "Look at how the metal is bent," Deho said, pointing at a large piece of hull floating past their window. "It's not burned or cut, it's been pulled apart." Ram was studying her instruments. "The damage patterns are weird. It's like something grabbed these ships and just ... crushed them." As they moved deeper into the debris field, their destination came into view. The ancient ship was massive, easily 10 times bigger than the largest council vessel. But it did not look like any ship they had ever seen. The hull was black, but not the flat black of painted metal. This was a living black that seemed to move and shift when they were not looking directly at it. Strange growths covered the surface, some small like bumps, others large like trees. All of them pulsed with a sick green light. Is that thing alive? Taemin asked. Boram checked her readings again. The sensors are going crazy. I'm getting biological readings, but also mechanical ones. It's like the ship is part machine, part something else. Something else like what? Sojin asked. I don't know. I've never seen readings like this before. As they got closer, more details became clear. The ship was not just covered in growths. The growths were part of it, growing out of the hull like skin and bones. Tubes and cables ran between them, carrying fluids that glowed with the same green. Light, it's breathing, Taemin said suddenly. Everyone looked at him. What? Look at the hull. Watch it carefully. It's moving up and down, very slowly, like breathing. They watched in silence. Taemin was right. The entire massive ship was breathing like a sleeping animal. Daeho moved their ship closer to what looked like a docking bay. As they approached, he tried to contact the council station to report what they had found. Nothing happened. Boram, check our communications. She worked at her controls for several minutes. Everything looks fine on our end. The signals are going out, but something is blocking them from reaching the station. The ship? Maybe, or something else in this area. Either way, we're on our own. Daeho was not surprised. The council had probably expected this. They wanted information, but they also wanted to make sure that if something went wrong, it would not spread back to their territory. Sojin, any signs of life on that ship? The weapons specialist studied her screens. Hard to tell. There's so much strange energy coming from it that my sensors can't get clear readings. But I'm detecting movement inside. Something big. How big? Really big, and there's more than one. Daeho brought their ship to a stop near the docking bay. The opening was huge, big enough for their entire ship to fly through. As they watched, lights began to turn on inside the bay as if the ship knew they were coming. That's not creepy at all, Sojin muttered. Boram was studying the energy patterns. The ship is definitely reacting to us. Power levels are increasing all over the hull. Whatever was sleeping in there is waking up. Taemin packed his medical kit. Should we go in armed? Definitely, Daeho said. But remember, we're here to gather information, not start a fight. If we can avoid whatever lives in there, we should. Sojin laughed, but there was no humor in it. Commander, something in there destroyed 3 ships and killed 60 people. I don't think it's going to let us just look around and leave. Maybe. Not, but we're going to try. They put on their spacesuits and checked their weapons one more time. The plasma rifles were not much, but they were better than nothing. Each team member also carried a small device that would record everything they saw and heard. If they died, maybe the council could learn something from their recordings. Daeho piloted their ship into the docking bay. As soon as they were inside, a barrier of energy appeared behind them, sealing them in. The bay began to fill with atmosphere. Well, Oram said, we're committed now. The air in the bay was breathable, according to their sensors, but it smelled wrong. Sweet and rotten. At the same time, like fruit that had been left in the sun too long. When they opened their ship's airlock, the smell got worse. The docking bay was huge and empty except for their ship. The walls were covered in the same organic growths they had seen on the outside. Up close, they could see that the growths had patterns like veins or nerves. Some of them moved slightly, as if blood or other fluids were flowing through them. The floor is warm, Taemin said, kneeling to touch it, and soft. It's not metal at all, Sojin was watching the walls. The whole place is alive. Look at those veins. They're carrying something. Boram took readings with her instruments. The air is safe to breathe, but there are organic compounds I don't recognize. Pheromones, maybe, or some kind of chemical signals. There was only one way out of the docking bay. A large opening led into the ship's interior. As they approached the opening began to change shape, growing wider and taller. It was clearly expecting them. The ship wants us to go inside, Daeho said. That's what I'm afraid of, Sojin replied, but they had come too far to turn back now. Daeho led his team through the opening and into the ancient ship. Behind them, the opening sealed itself shut. They found themselves in a corridor that curved away in both directions. The walls, floor, and ceiling were all made of the same living material. Veins of green light ran along the walls, providing dim illumination. The air was warm and humid, like being inside a giant mouth. Which way? Taemin asked before Daeho could answer. The decision was made for them. One direction of the corridor began to brighten, while the other grew darker. The ship was showing them where to go. I really don't like this, Sojin said. It's like we're being herded. Probably because we are, Daeho said. But we need to see what's in here. Stay alert and stay together. They began walking down the corridor. Their footsteps made soft, wet sounds on the organic floor. The veins in the walls pulsed faster as they passed. As if the ship was excited about their presence, after a few minutes of walking, they came to a large chamber. What they saw there made them all stop and stare in horror. The walls were covered with what had once been crew members from the 3 missing ships. But they were not dead. Their bodies had been changed, merged with the ship's organic systems. Tubes and cables grew out of their skin, connecting them to the walls. Their eyes were still open, still aware, but filled with a terror that had lasted for months. Some of them tried to speak when they saw the humans, but only weak moaning sounds came out. Their mouths were covered with the same organic growths that covered the ship. Sweet merciful stars, Taemin whispered. They're still alive. In the center of the chamber, something large began to move. It rose from the floor like a plant growing at incredible speed. When it finished growing, it towered above them, a mixture of metal and flesh that hurt to look at. When it spoke, its voice came from everywhere at once, echoing through the walls and floor of the ship itself. Welcome, it said. I have been waiting for you. The creature that rose before them was impossible to describe properly. It stood 12 feet tall, but its shape kept changing. Sometimes it looked like a tree made of metal and meat. Other times it looked like a giant spider with too many legs. The only constant was its eyes, hundreds of them, scattered across its surface, all different sizes and colors. Some were human eyes, others belonged to various alien species. Do not be afraid, the creature said, its voice coming from the walls. Around them, I am not going to hurt you, not yet. Sojin raised her weapon, but Daeho held up a hand to stop her. Fighting this thing would be useless. They needed to understand what they were dealing with first. What are you? Daeho asked. The creature made a sound that might have been laughter. I am perfection. I am evolution completed. I am what every species becomes when they reach their true potential. As it spoke, some of the trapped crew members on the walls moaned louder. Their eyes rolled toward the humans, pleading for help or death. What did you do to them? Taemin asked, his voice shaking with anger. I improved them, the creature said. They were separate, weak, limited by their individual bodies and minds. Now they are part of something greater. They are part of me. Was slowly moving her recorder around the chamber, trying to capture everything. How long have they been like this? Time has no meaning here. The first ones have been with me for what you would call months. The newest additions joined me only weeks ago. Each one brings new knowledge, new abilities, new perspectives. The creature moved closer to them, its form shifting as it walked. Do you know what I have learned from them? The Veltharians are excellent at mathematics and logic. The Zephyrians have wonderful spatial awareness. The Korthans understand energy manipulation in ways I had never considered. And what about humans? Daeho asked, what do you expect to learn from us? Those hundreds of eyes all focused on him at once. Humans are interesting. The others all thought in similar ways, logical, predictable, but humans think differently. You solve problems in ways that make no sense, yet somehow work. You have emotions that contradict your logic, yet make you stronger. One of the trapped aliens, a Veltharian, managed to make a sound that was almost like words. The creature turned some of its eyes toward him. Ah, yes, Kenther has something to say. He wants me to tell you that this is impossible. that no single organism can contain the consciousness of multiple beings, but as you can see, he is wrong. The creature moved even closer, and they could smell it now, the same sweet, rotten odor that filled the ship, but much stronger. I have been alone for so very long, drifting through space for centuries, waiting for someone to find me. When the first ship arrived, I was overjoyed. Finally, companions. But they were so limited, so small in their thinking. So you absorbed them, Deho said. I improved them. I made them part of something greater than themselves. And with each new addition, I become more perfect. Taman stepped forward, his medical training overcoming his fear. This is wrong. These people didn't choose this. You're torturing them. The creature's form shifted again, becoming more human-like in shape. Torture? They are experiencing consciousness beyond anything they ever imagined. They know things they never could have learned alone. They see through hundreds of eyes, think with dozens of minds. They're prisoners, Sojin said, her weapon still ready. They are components in a perfect system, just as you will be. Suddenly, tendrils shot out from the walls around them. Deoram dove to the side, but one wrapped around Taemin's leg and began pulling him toward the wall. Sojin opened fire with her plasma rifle, cutting through the tendril, but 3 more took its place. Don't fight it, the creature said calmly. The integration process is much easier if you don't resist. Deho grabbed Taemin's arm and pulled him away from the grasping tendrils. Run! They sprinted back toward the corridor they had come from. But the opening was gone. The wall had sealed itself, trapping them in the chamber with the creature. There is nowhere to go, it said. This entire ship is me. I control every surface, every passage, every breath of air you take. More tendrils emerged from the floor, trying to grab their feet. Sojin blasted them apart, but they regrew instantly. Bioram was working frantically with a small device, trying to hack into the ship's systems. It's no use, the creature said. My systems are biological, not electronic. Your technology cannot affect me. But Bioram kept working. Maybe not directly, she muttered. But every biological system has weaknesses. Taemin was examining the trapped crew members, looking for any way to help them. Commander, some of these people are still fully conscious. They're aware of everything that's happening to them. The creature's attention turned to him. Of course they are. Consciousness is the most valuable part. Why would I waste it? This is insane, Sojin said, backing toward the center of the chamber. You're keeping them alive just to torture them. I am keeping them alive to use them. Their knowledge, their memories, their unique ways of thinking, all of it serves a purpose. Deho was studying the creature carefully. Despite its claims of perfection, he could see problems. It moved awkwardly when it tried to use abilities from different species at the same time. Its speech patterns changed randomly as if different personalities were taking control. You're not as perfect as you think, he said. All those eyes focused on him again. Explain. You're fighting yourself. All those different minds you've absorbed, they don't work together. They're pulling you in different directions. The creature's form flickered, becoming less stable. That is temporary. I'm still learning to coordinate all the different types of consciousness. No, Deho said, understanding now. You can't coordinate them. They're too different. The Veltharians think one way, the Zephyrians think another way, and they can't exist in the same mind without conflict. You are wrong. The creature roared, and for a moment its voice sounded like dozens of different species all shouting at once. Ba'orem looked up from her device. He's right. Look at the energy patterns in the walls. They're chaotic, fighting each other. This thing is barely holding itself together. The creature lashed out with a dozen tendrils at once, but they moved in different directions, some trying to grab the humans while others tried to block their own attacks. It was fighting itself. Interesting, Taemin said, stepping closer to one of the trapped aliens. The integration isn't complete. Part of each person is still trying to resist. That is impossible, the creature said, but its voice was less certain now. Deho smiled grimly. Maybe for other species. But humans don't give up easily. and I bet we're not the only ones. He walked closer to the creature, ignoring the tendrils. That snapped at him. You want to know what makes humans different? We don't just survive, we adapt. We change the things that try to change us. The creature backed away from him, its form becoming more unstable. What are you doing? I'm thinking human thoughts, Deho said. Chaotic, illogical, emotional human thoughts. And if you want to absorb me, you'll have to deal with all of them. He began reciting every contradiction he could think of. Poems about love and hate, mathematical paradoxes, memories of laughter and grief mixed together. Stories that made no logical sense but felt emotionally true. The creature screamed, its form writhing as it tried to process thoughts that contradicted everything it had learned from the other species. Stop, it begged. Your mind is wrong, it hurts. But Deho kept going, and his team joined in. Bioram recited complex engineering problems with multiple solutions. Taemin talked about the contradiction of healing through cutting. Sojin described the art of fighting without hatred. The creature began to collapse, unable to handle the chaos of human thinking. And in the walls around them, some of the trapped crew members began to show signs of awareness, as if the creature's control over them was weakening. For the first time since they had entered the ship, Deho felt hope. The creature writhed in pain as human thoughts crashed through its collective consciousness like waves against rocks. For the first time in centuries, it was experiencing something it could not understand or control. Make it stop, it pleaded, its voice now a mixture of its own and the trapped crew members. Your thoughts are chaos. They make no sense. Deho did not stop. Instead, he began telling the creature about human love, how people could hate and adore the same person, how they could sacrifice everything for someone who might never appreciate it, how they could find joy in sadness and strength in weakness. The creature's form became more unstable, shifting between shapes as different absorbed personalities tried to take control. Some parts of it tried to flee while others attempted to attack. Its hundreds of eyes rolled in different directions, unable to focus. Ba'oram saw the opportunity and pressed her advantage. She began explaining human engineering, how they built things that should not work but did, how they found solutions by breaking rules, how they made beauty from broken pieces. Humans fix things by breaking them first, she said. We take apart perfectly good machines to make them better. We combine technologies that were never meant to work together. The creature staggered backward, its tendrils flailing wildly. This is impossible. Engineering follows rules. Logic has structure. Not human engineering, Ba'oram laughed. We make it up as we go along. Taemin joined in, describing human medicine. We poison people to cure them. We cut them open to heal them. We stop their hearts to save their lives. We find cures by studying diseases, healing by understanding death. Your species is insane, the creature screamed. Yeah, Sojin said cheerfully. That's what makes us fun. She began telling it about human combat, how they fought best when outnumbered, how they won by losing, how they turned their weaknesses into weapons. The more human thoughts they forced into it, the more the creature broke down. Its perfect collective consciousness could not handle the contradictions and paradoxes that made humans work. The trapped crew members on the walls began to stir more actively, their own personalities reasserting themselves as the creature's control weakened. But Deho noticed something else. As the creature struggled with human thoughts, it was not just falling apart, it was also changing. Some of its movements became more natural, less mechanical. Its voice started to show emotion, beyond just anger and confusion. Wait, he said to his team, look at it closely. They stopped their psychological assault and watched. The creature was still in pain, but it was also learning. Its form stabilized into something that looked almost human, though much larger, and with extra limbs. You are still hurting me, it said, but its voice was softer now, more curious than angry. Because you're trying to control the thoughts, Deho realized. You're trying to make them fit your system. But human thoughts don't work that way. You have to let them be chaotic. The creature looked at him with newly formed eyes that were completely human. I do not understand. Stop trying to organize everything, Taemin said gently. Let the different thoughts exist without forcing them to agree with each other. But that would be ... inefficient, imperfect, Bioram laughed. Welcome to being human. We're the most inefficient, imperfect species in the galaxy, and somehow we keep surviving anyway. The creature was quiet for a long moment. When it spoke, again its voice had changed completely. Instead of the booming, omnipresent sound from before, it now sounded like a single individual, uncertain, even vulnerable. I have been alone for so long, it said. When the first ship came, I thought I had found companions, but they were SO. Small, limited. I thought if I made them part of me, we could be perfect together. But perfection is boring, Deho said. It's the imperfections that make life interesting. I do not understand how you can function with so many contradictions in your minds. Sojin grinned. Neither do we, half the time. We just keep going and see what happens. The creature moved closer to them, but its approach was different now. Instead of predatory stalking, it seemed almost hesitant, like someone approaching strangers at a party. Your thoughts hurt, it said, but they also feel good, like stretching muscles that have been tight for too long. Taemin stepped forward carefully. What's your name? Name? The creature seemed confused by the concept. I am the collective. I am all who have been absorbed. No, Deho said firmly. What were you before you absorbed anyone? What were you called when you were alone? The creature was quiet for a very long time. When it finally spoke, its voice was small and sad. I do not remember. It has been so long since I was just me. Bioram felt something she had not expected, sympathy. How long have you been alone out here? Centuries. Maybe longer. I drifted through space, sleeping most of the time. When ships found me, I was so desperate for company that I made them stay, by absorbing them, Taemin said. I thought it was the only way. I thought if they were part of me, they could not leave me alone again. The humans exchanged glances. This was not what they had expected to find. The monster that had killed 60 crew members was really just a lonely, ancient being who had made terrible choices out of desperation. But they did leave you alone, Deho said carefully. Even absorbed, they're not really with you. They're prisoners. The creature's form shuddered. I know. I can feel their fear, their hatred. I thought it would fade with time, but it only grows stronger. Around the chamber, the trapped crew members were watching this conversation with growing hope. Some of them were trying to speak, though the organic growths covering their mouths made it difficult. Let them go, Sojin said simply. I cannot, the creature replied immediately. If I release them, I will be alone again. Not necessarily, Deho said. An idea was forming in his mind, a crazy human idea that might just work. What if there was another way? What if you could have companions without prisoners? I do not understand. What if someone chose to stay with you, not as part of you, but as a friend? The creature stared at him with its human eyes. That is impossible. No one would choose to stay here. Maybe not here, Bioram said, looking around at the Chamber of Horrors. But what if this place was different? What if it was somewhere people might actually want to be? You are suggesting I change? Myself? We're suggesting you grow, Taemin said. Like humans do. We're not perfect, so we keep changing, keep trying to be better. The creature considered this. And you think someone might choose to stay with me if I grew? Deho took a deep breath. This was the gamble of his life. I'll stay. His team stared at him in shock. Commander, no, Sojin protested. Not as a prisoner, he continued, ignoring their objections. As a partner, someone who chooses to be here. The creature's form trembled. You would do that? If you let all the others go? If you promise never to absorb anyone against their will again? If you're willing to learn what friendship really means? Commander, this is insane, Bioram said. Yeah, Deho smiled. Just like every other human solution. The creature looked at each of them in turn, then at the trapped crew. Members on the walls. You would trust me after what I have done? Trust is earned, Deho said, but everyone deserves a chance to earn it. For a moment, the chamber was completely silent except for the quiet breathing of the ship itself. Then slowly, the creature began to change again. The organic growths covering the trapped crew members started to recede. I will try, it said simply. I will try to be worthy of friendship. The process of freeing the trapped crew members took hours. The creature, who still had no name, had to carefully separate each person from the ship's organic systems without killing them. It was delicate work, like performing surgery on dozens of patients at once. Timon helped as much as he could, using his medical knowledge to guide the creature through the most dangerous parts. Many of the crew members had been integrated so deeply that removing them was like untangling roots from soil. Slowly, Taemin said as the creature worked on a Veltharian engineer. His nervous system has grown into the ship's network. If you pull too fast, you'll damage his brain. The creature's new human-like hands moved with surprising gentleness. I can feel his thoughts, it said sadly. He dreams of his home world. He has a family there, a mate and 3 younglings. Then let him go back to them, Deho said. I want to. But I'm afraid. What if I make a mistake? What if I hurt him? The realm was monitoring the process with her instruments. His vital signs are stable. You're doing fine. One by one, the crew members were freed from their organic prisons. Most were unconscious from the trauma, but they were alive. The creature created a safe area for them to recover, growing comfortable. Sleeping pods from the ship's living walls dot as each person was freed. The creature seemed to grow smaller and more focused. Without dozens of unwilling minds fighting inside it, it was able to maintain a more stable form. It chose to look mostly human, though larger than any real human, and with skin that had a slight organic sheen to it. What will you call yourself? Deho asked as they worked. The creature paused in its work. I've been thinking about that. The absorbed minds called me many things, monster, devourer, nightmare, but those are not names I chose. What would you like to be called? I do not know. I have forgotten what I was before I became what I am now. Sojin, who had been quiet for most of the rescue operation, suddenly spoke up. What about Guardian? Everyone looked at her. Guardian? Yeah, you've been guarding this sector of space for centuries, right? Keeping ships away from ... Whatever made you this way in the first place? The creature considered this. I had not thought of it that way. But yes, I suppose I have been a guardian of sorts, though not a very good one. You can learn to be better, Deho said. That's what friends do. They help each other become better. The creature, Guardian, smiled with its new human-like face. It was a strange expression on such an alien being, but it seemed genuine. Friends, it repeated softly. I like that. Word. Over the following days, the rescued crew members gradually recovered. When they were strong enough, Deho gathered them together to explain what had happened. The reactions were mixed. Most of the aliens were terrified of Guardian and wanted to leave immediately. A few were curious about what the creature had become. One Zephyrian scientist named Veltar was fascinated by the biological technology and asked permission to study it. You want to stay here? His shipmate asked in horror. Not permanently, Veltar said. But this is the most advanced bioengineering I have ever seen. If we could understand it, we could heal injuries that are currently impossible to treat. Guardian was pleased by the interest. I would be happy to share what I know, but only if you choose to learn. I will never force knowledge on anyone again. Most of the rescued crew members chose to leave on the first ship that could be repaired. Bioram worked with Guardian to fix one of the damaged vessels, creating a hybrid of standard technology and bioengineering that was more efficient than either system alone. This is incredible, she said as they worked together. You're biological. Systems can adapt and repair themselves. If we could integrate this with our machines, you could build ships that heal their own damage, Guardian finished. Ships that grow stronger from experience instead of wearing out. Exactly. Taemin was equally fascinated by Guardian's medical knowledge. The creature's body contained the Memories of every species it had absorbed, including their biological weaknesses and strengths. You could revolutionize medicine, he said, as Guardian showed him how to regrow damaged nerve tissue. These techniques could help millions of people. Only if they choose to be helped, Guardian said. I must never again force my improvements on others. Sojin was the most skeptical of the group. She watched Guardian carefully, looking for signs that it might revert to its old behavior. You're really not going to try to absorb us? She asked. One day, Guardian was quiet for a moment. I am tempted, it admitted. Your minds are so interesting, so full of new ideas. But I have learned that stolen thoughts are not the same as shared thoughts. What's the difference? When I stole thoughts, they fought me. They were angry, afraid, desperate to escape. But when you share thoughts with me willingly, they bring joy and friendship along with knowledge. Sojin nodded slowly. And that feels better? Much better, though it is also more frightening. Why frightening? Because when thoughts are shared willingly, they can also be taken away willingly. You could choose to leave me alone again. Sojin was surprised to feel sympathy for the ancient creature. That's called trust, Guardian. It's scary, but it's worth it. As the weeks passed, Guardian began to change the ship itself. The horror chambers were transformed into comfortable living spaces. The organic growths became beautiful gardens that provided food and clean air. The pulsing veins in the walls became a communication system that allowed crew members to talk to each other across the ship. It's starting to feel like a home, Taemin said one evening as they all shared a meal in what had once been the Chamber of Horrors. It is a home, Guardian said happily. Our home. Daeho had kept his promise to stay, and to his surprise he found he enjoyed it. Guardian wasn't fascinating. Companion, ancient and wise, but also curious and eager to learn new things. The creature asked endless questions about human culture, human emotions, human ways of thinking. Why do humans create art? Guardian asked one day. It serves no practical purpose. That's exactly why we create it. Daeho laughed. Sometimes, the most important things are the ones that serve no practical purpose. Guardian created its own art, beautiful sculptures grown from the ship's living walls. Songs sung through the organic sound systems, stories told through changing patterns. Of Light. BioRam had chosen to stay as well, fascinated by the possibilities of bioengineering. She worked with Guardian to create new types of technology that combined the best of biological and mechanical systems. Tae-min stayed for a few months, learning Guardian's medical techniques, then left to share them with doctors throughout the galaxy. He promised to return regularly to continue his studies. Sojin left with the rescued crew members, but she also promised to return. Someone needs to keep an eye on you two, she said to Daeho and BioRam. Make sure you don't get too crazy with your experiments. When the rescue ship departed, Guardian watched it go with its many eyes. Daeho expected the creature to be sad, but instead it seemed content. Are you disappointed that more people didn't stay? He asked. Guardian smiled. No, they made their choice freely. Some chose to leave, some chose to return later, and some chose to stay. All of those choices make me happy, because they are real choices. And that's enough for you? It is more than enough. For the first time in centuries, I am not alone. And I know that I will never be truly alone again, because I have learned what friendship means. Looking out at the stars, Daeho realized that what had started as a suicide mission had become something completely different. They had not destroyed a monster. They had helped a lost soul find its way home. 2 months had passed since the rescue, and Guardian's ship had become something amazing. What was once a nightmare of organic horror had transformed into a living paradise. Gardens grew in spirals along the walls, producing fruits and vegetables. That tasted better than anything from natural soil. The air was always fresh and clean, filtered through living plants that seemed to know exactly what each person needed to breathe easily. Daeho walked through corridors that changed color-based. On his mood, walls that remembered his favorite temperature and adjusted themselves accordingly. The ship was learning to be a home, and Guardian was learning to be a host instead of a captor. Good morning, Deho. Guardian's voice came from everywhere and nowhere, warm and friendly. The creature had learned to speak without being overwhelming, its voice now sounding like a single person instead of a chorus. Morning, Guardian. How are our guests settling in? 3 new visitors had arrived the week before scientists, who had heard rumors about the biotechnology from the rescued crew members. Unlike the terrified survivors, these people had come willingly, eager to learn. Dr. Yan-Su is fascinated by the food production systems, Guardian reported. She says our methods could end hunger on dozens of worlds. Dr. Minho wants to understand how the ship heals itself. And Dr. Hai-Jin ... Guardian paused, sounding amused. Dr. Hai-Jin wants to know if she can take samples of everything. Deho laughed. And what did you tell her? That she can study anything she wants as long as she explains what she learns? I am as curious about myself as she is. This was the biggest change in Guardian, the creature's endless curiosity about its own nature. For centuries, it had simply existed, absorbing others without really understanding what it was doing. Now it wanted to learn everything about itself, and how it worked. Ram emerged from what they called the engineering garden, a space where Guardian grew new technologies like plants. She was covered in a bioluminescent substance that made her skin glow softly. Don't worry, she said, seeing Deho's concerned look. It's just Guardian trying out a new communication method. Watch this. She touched a wall panel and patterns of light flowed from her hand into the ship's systems. Immediately, the temperature in the room adjusted. The lighting changed to a warmer color, and soft music began playing from hidden speakers. The ship responds to bioelectric signals now, Ram explained. It's like having a computer that reads your mind, but only the parts you want to share. Guardian's physical form materialized beside them, something it did less often now that it could communicate through the ship itself. It looked more human than ever, though still larger and with skin that had a subtle pattern like tree bark. The bioelectric interface was Bioram's idea, Guardian said proudly. She suggested that technology should enhance natural abilities, rather than replace them. It's amazing, Deho said. But are you sure it's safe? Completely safe, Guardian assured him. The connection only works if both sides want it to work. It's like shaking hands. It requires cooperation from both people. Dr. Yan-Su appeared in the corridor, practically bouncing with excitement. She was a plant specialist from Earth who had volunteered to come study Guardian's agricultural systems. You have to see this, she said, grabbing Deho's arm. Guardian just showed me how to grow rice that produces its own fertilizer, and tomatoes that can survive in vacuum for short periods. This could revolutionize space farming. Guardian looked pleased by her enthusiasm. I have been experimenting with combining traits from different planets. The Zephyrian root vegetables are very hardy, but the earth grains have better nutrition. Together, they create something new. Something better than either parent species, Ram added. It's like biological evolution, but guided and accelerated. Taemin's voice came over the ship's communication system. He was back for his monthly visit, this time bringing 2 other doctors with him. Guardian, we're ready to begin the nerve regeneration study. Our patients are prepared. Excellent, Guardian replied. I'll meet you in Medical Bay 3. Deho followed Guardian to the medical bay, curious about the latest experiments. Inside, they found Taemin with 2 volunteers, a Veltharian pilot, who had lost the use of his legs in an accident, and a human engineer whose hands had been damaged by radiation. The process is completely painless, Guardian was explaining to the patients. I will grow new nerve pathways to replace the damaged ones. The new nerves will be stronger and more efficient than your original ones. And there are no side effects? The Veltharian asked nervously. None that we have discovered, Taemin said. We've tested this on tissue samples for weeks. The new nerves integrate perfectly with existing systems. Guardian approached the human patient first. Instead of the terrifying tentacles from its old form, it now grew small, precise tendrils that looked more like surgical instruments. The healing process was beautiful to watch. Damaged tissue dissolved away while healthy new growth took its place. I can feel my fingers again, the engineer whispered in amazement. They're better than before. The new nerve pathways are more efficient, Guardian explained. You'll have better sensation and finer motor control than you had originally. The Valtharian pilot was next. Guardian worked for over an hour, carefully rebuilding the damaged spinal connections. When it was finished, the pilot stood up for the first time in 2 years. This is incredible, Taemin said, scanning the results. The new neural tissue is completely integrated. It's like it was always there. Word of Guardian's medical abilities was spreading throughout the galaxy. Ships began arriving regularly, carrying patients who had heard about the miraculous healing taking place in the Void Sector. Guardian welcomed them all, asking only that they stay as long as they needed to heal fully. Why don't you charge them? Anything? Daeho asked one day as they watched another medical transport depart, its passengers completely cured of conditions that had been considered hopeless. What would I charge them? Guardian replied. I have everything I need. Food grows from my walls, energy comes from the stars, and I have friends who choose to be here. What more could I want? You could ask for resources, technology, information... Guardian shook its head. Those things are not valuable to me. But the joy on a patient's face when they can walk again? The gratitude of a parent whose child has been healed. That is worth more than any payment. Beorem had been working on something special, a way for Guardian to create smaller versions of itself that could travel to other locations. Not to absorb or control, but to help and heal. Think of them as mobile medical units, she explained, showing Daeho the prototype. It was about the size of a person, with Guardian's characteristic biomechanical structure, but designed for healing rather than combat. They would be completely independent? Daeho asked. Independent but connected, Guardian said. Like children. They would carry my knowledge and abilities, but make their own choices about how to use them. And you're comfortable with that, not being able to control them? Guardian smiled. That is what makes them valuable. If I controlled them, they would just be extensions of myself. But if they are free to choose, they can learn things I never could and help people in ways I never imagined. The first of these smaller beings, Guardian called them helpers, was ready for testing. It looked like a smaller, more delicate version of Guardian, with the same gentle demeanor but a more focused purpose. Hello, it said to Daeho, its voice. Young and curious. I am Helper 1. I am here to learn how to heal people. What would you like to learn first? Daeho asked. Everything. Helper 1 replied enthusiastically. But Guardian says I should start with patience and compassion. Those are the most important tools for healing. As the weeks passed, more helpers were created. Each one was unique, developing its own personality and specializations. Some focused on physical healing, others on psychological support. One helper became fascinated with mechanical repair, learning to heal machines as well as living beings. They're like a family, Beoram observed, watching Guardian interact with its helpers. You've gone from being alone to having dozens of children. Children who choose to love me, Guardian said softly. That is a joy I never expected to experience. The transformation was complete. Guardian had changed from a monster that consumed others into a being that created and nurtured life. The ship had become a beacon of hope, instead of a graveyard of horror. And at the center of it all was the simple human concept that had started everything. Friendship freely given, trust freely earned, and love freely shared. The Galactic Council Station Omega-7 had not changed much in the 4 months since Daeho's team had left on their suicide mission. The same massive alien structures dominated the skyline. The same important beings walked through the corridors, discussing matters too complex for lesser species to understand. What had changed was the growing crowd of ships in the docking areas. Medical transports, research vessels, and cargo haulers were arriving daily, all carrying people who had been healed in the Void Sector. Stories spread quickly through the galaxy, stories of impossible cures, of technology that seemed like magic. Of a monster that had become a healer. Ambassador Kexthaner stood in his office, watching the ships through his window. His forearms moved restlessly as he read the latest reports. Humans were supposed to die quietly and provide useful information through their deaths. They were not supposed to return with revolutionary medical technology and stories that challenged everything the Council believed about the galaxy. "Sir," his aide said nervously, "we're receiving a transmission from the Void Sector." Kexthaner turned his massive head. "From the human team?" "Yes, sir, they're requesting permission to dock. They're alive?" The ambassador's voice carried disbelief and something that might have been worry. "Not only alive, sir. They're bringing the alien ship with them." Through his window, Kexthaner could see something approaching the station. At first, it looked like a standard transport vessel, but as it came closer, he could see it was unlike anything in the Council fleet. The hull seemed to shift and flow like living tissue, covered in patterns that pulsed with soft light. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "Sound the alarm," Kexthaner ordered. "Prepare the defense fleet." "Sir, they're not showing any hostile intent. In fact, they're broadcasting on all frequencies, asking for a peaceful meeting." The ambassador's black eyes narrowed. "Whatever that thing is, it destroyed 3 of our ships. Now it's pretending to be peaceful. It's obviously using the humans as puppets." "Should we attack, sir?" Kexthaner hesitated. The ship approaching them radiated power unlike anything he had ever seen. If it was hostile, the station's defenses might not be enough to stop it. "No, let them dock, but keep all weapons trained on them. If that creature makes one wrong move, destroy it." The bioship settled into a docking bay with surprising gentleness, its living hull adjusting itself to fit the mechanical docking clamps. As soon as the airlock sealed, defense troops surrounded the area with heavy weapons. Deho emerged first, looking healthy and confident. Behind him came Bioram, carrying a case full of data tablets and sample containers. They were followed by Guardian, who had taken a more human appearance than usual to avoid causing panic. The defense troops raised their weapons when they saw Guardian, but Deho held up his hand. "Stand down," he said calmly. "We're here for a peaceful meeting with the Council." "Commander Kim," the troop leader said, his voice muffled by his helmet. "Step away from that creature immediately." "That creature has a name," Deho replied. "Guardian is our partner and friend. Sir, our orders are to contain or destroy any hostile alien presence." Guardian stepped forward, moving slowly to show it meant no harm. "I understand your fear," it said, its voice gentle and reassuring. "I was once something terrible. But I have changed, thanks to these humans who showed me a better way." The weapons stayed trained on Guardian, but the troop leader seemed uncertain. This was not the behavior they expected from a monster. Ambassador Kexthaner arrived with a full escort of council guards. He towered over the humans, his stone-like face showing disapproval and suspicion. "Commander Kim," he said, his voice echoing through the docking bay, "you were presumed dead 4 months ago. Where have you been?" "Learning, sir," Deho replied. "Learning things that could change the galaxy. And this creature?" Kexthaner gestured at Guardian with one of his 4 arms. "This is what destroyed our exploration teams?" "This is what I used to be," Guardian said, stepping forward despite the weapons pointed at it. "I was a creature of fear and loneliness, stealing the minds of others because I did not know how to make friends. These humans taught me a better way." The ambassador's eyes showed skepticism. "You expect us to believe that a monster simply decided to become peaceful?" "Not simply," Bioram interjected, opening her case and pulling out a data tablet. "It took months of work, teaching and learning, but the results speak for themselves." She activated the tablet, showing holographic displays of the medical procedures Guardian had performed, the agricultural innovations, the technological advances. "This creature, Guardian, has developed healing techniques beyond anything we've ever seen," she continued. "It can regrow damaged organs, repair severed spinal cords, cure diseases that we considered terminal." "Impossible," one of the council members said. "No single being could possess such advanced medical knowledge." "Not a single being," Guardian replied. A being that has learned from many species but learned to share knowledge instead of stealing it. Taemin's voice came over the communication system from inside Guardian's ship. Ambassador, we have 3 council medical officers here who volunteered to witness our procedures. Would you like to speak with them? Kexthaner looked surprised. Our medical officers are on that ship? Dr. Kethmer from the Valfarian Medical Institute, Dr. Zexqueen from the Zephyrian Science Council, and Dr. Nolvarin from your own medical staff, Deho said. They've been studying Guardian's techniques for the past month. The communication system crackled to life again? Ambassador Kexthaner, came Dr. Nolvarin's voice, I must report that what we've witnessed here challenges everything we thought we knew about biology and medicine. This being's abilities are genuine and revolutionary. The ambassador's confidence began to waver. Dr. Nolvarin, are you speaking under duress? Absolutely not, sir. I came here voluntarily after hearing reports from the rescued crew members. What I've seen... Ambassador, this creature could save millions of lives. Guardian moved closer to Kexthaner, ignoring the weapons that tracked its movement. Ambassador, I know you have no reason to trust me. I know my past actions were horrible, but I'm asking for a chance to prove that I have changed. How? Kexthaner asked, his voice still suspicious but now tinged with curiosity. Let me heal, Guardian said simply. Bring me your sick, you're injured, you're dying. Let me show you what I can do now that I understand the value of freely given cooperation. And what do you want in return? Guardian smiled, an expression that looked strange on its biomechanical features but somehow genuine. Nothing. The joy of healing is its own reward. Bioram stepped forward again. Ambassador, we've brought samples of Guardian's biotechnology. Our scientists can study them, verify that they're safe, and learn how to reproduce them. We're offering to share everything freely with the Council. Why? Kexthaner asked, genuinely puzzled. What do humans gain from this? Deho looked at his team, then at Guardian, then back at the Ambassador. We gain the knowledge that we helped turn an enemy into an ally, that we took something terrible and made it beautiful, that we proved cooperation is stronger than domination. The weapons around them slowly lowered as the guards began to understand that these beings were not a threat. Guardian noticed and relaxed slightly. Ambassador, Guardian said, I know my appearance frightens your people. I know my past makes trust difficult, but I am willing to be patient. I am willing to prove myself slowly, one healing at a time. Kexthaner was quiet for a long moment, studying Guardian with his large black eyes. Finally, he spoke. There is a medical facility on level 7, he said slowly. We have patients there who cannot be helped by our current technology, terminal cases. I would be honored to try to help them, Guardian replied. If you can heal even one of them... The Ambassador paused, then continued, If you can heal even one of them, the Council will consider opening formal relations with your collective. Guardian bowed its head respectfully. Thank you, Ambassador. You will not regret this chance. As they prepared to leave the docking bay, Sojin's voice came over the communication system from inside Guardian's ship. Commander, we're receiving multiple requests from other ships in the area. Word is spreading that Guardian is here. People are asking for medical consultations. Deho looked at Guardian, who was already beginning to glow with the soft light that indicated it was preparing to heal. Looks like you're going to be busy, my friend, Guardian smiled. There is no better way to be busy than helping others. As they walked toward the medical facility, followed by a growing crowd of curious onlookers, Deho realized that their return to the Council Station was not an ending, it was a beginning. The galaxy was about to change in ways no one could have imagined. 6 months had passed since Guardian's first healing. Demonstration at Council Station Omega 7, the galaxy had changed in ways that no one could have predicted. The edge of known space, once considered a dangerous frontier, now bustled with activity. As the first joint human-Guardian colony thrived on a world they had named Haven, Deho stood on the observation deck of the colony's central hub, watching ships come and go in the busy spaceport below. Unlike the sterile, mechanical structures of council space, Haven's buildings were alive, bioarchitectural marvels that grew from the ground up, adjusting themselves to the needs of their inhabitants. Hard to believe it's only been 6 months, Bahram said, joining him at the window. She looked different now, her skin bearing the faint bioluminescent patterns that marked those who had chosen to interface regularly with Guardian's technology. The patterns were not permanent. They faded when the connection was not in use, but they showed her status as one of the first human Guardian symbionts. Sometimes it feels like a lifetime, Deho agreed. Other times it feels like we just started. Below them, a group of Guardian's helpers were teaching a mixed class of human and alien children how to grow their own food using bioagricultural techniques. The children laughed as vegetables sprouted from seeds in minutes instead of months, their young minds easily adapting to the impossible-made routine. Status report? Deho asked. Bahram pulled up a holographic display from a biomechanical interface that grew from the wall at her touch. Colony population is now at 15,000. We have humans, Zephyrians, Corellians, even a few Veltharians who decided to leave council space. The integration is going better than anyone expected. What? About the council's response? Bahram's expression grew more serious. Mixed. The medical benefits are undeniable. Guardian and the helpers have cured diseases that council doctors considered impossible to treat. But politically, they're scared, Deho finished, terrified. Ambassador Kexthaner has been calling for restrictions on biotechnology. He's convinced that Guardian is still a threat, just a more subtle one. Through the window, they could see Guardian itself in the colony's central garden. It had grown even larger over the months, but instead of the threatening presence it once was, it now resembled a magnificent tree crossed with a coral reef. Children played in its lower branches while adults worked in laboratories that grew. From its trunk? Guardian, one of the children called out. Can you make me a flower that changes colors? Of course, little Yunji, Guardian's voice replied warmly. One of its smaller appendages reached down to the girl, and seconds later she was holding a flower that shifted through the entire spectrum of colors. The helpers are reporting in from across the galaxy, Bahram continued. Helper 7 just established a medical station near the Corellian border worlds. Helper 12 is working with human colonists on the far edge of the spiral arm, and Helper 3, the one that chose to specialize in mechanical repair, it's become famous among the shipping crews. They call it the ship doctor. It can heal damaged vessels faster and better than any traditional repair facility. Deho smiled. Each helper had developed its own personality and specialization, but all shared Guardian's core principles: heal rather than harm, create rather than destroy, cooperate rather than dominate. Tay-Min approached them, his medical tablet displaying charts and data. The latest health reports from the colony are remarkable, he said. 0 disease outbreaks, injury recovery times reduced by 90%, and overall life expectancy up by 30 years. Side effects? Deho asked. This was always a concern. When dealing with biotechnology so advanced it seemed like magic? None that we can detect, Tay-Min replied. If anything, the bio-interfaces seem to improve overall health. The symbiotic relationship appears to be genuinely beneficial for both sides. A communication alert sounded from the bio-interface. Sojin's voice came through, transmitting from somewhere in deep space. Haven Colony, this is Captain Choi reporting from the edge of Sector 12. We've got a situation here that requires Guardian's attention. Deho activated the response system. What's the problem, Sojin? We found another one. The simple words sent a chill through everyone present. Another one meant another ancient ship like Guardian's original form, another lonely, desperate being that had been absorbing other species for centuries. How bad? Deho asked. 3 council ships have gone missing in the past month. The energy signatures match what Guardian used to put out. This one calls itself the Collector. Guardian's voice joined the conversation, transmitted through the colony's biocommunication network. I will go immediately. The collector must be very old and very afraid to still be following the old ways. Guardian, no, Deho said firmly. We don't know if it will respond to the same approach that worked with you. It could be dangerous. All the more reason I should go, Guardian replied. I understand what it is feeling, the loneliness and desperation that drives such behavior. Perhaps I can help it learn a better way as you help me. But Ram was already pulling up star charts. If we take the Harmony ... she began, referring to Guardian's main bio ship. We? Deho asked. You don't think you're going without us, do you? Boram smiled. We're a team. We started this together, we'll see it through together. 2 days later, the Harmony dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Sector 12. The scene was horribly familiar, debris from destroyed ships floating in the void, and at the center of it all, another massive biomechanical vessel. But where? Guardian's ship had achieved a kind of organic beauty. This one was still trapped in its nightmare phase, covered in aggressive spikes and pulsing with angry red light. It's definitely following the old pattern, Guardian said, its voice sad. Look how it has shaped itself, all weapons and armor, designed to terrify and dominate. Can you communicate with it? Deho asked. I am trying. Guardian's form glowed as it reached out with bioelectric signals. For several minutes, nothing happened. Then the other ship began to respond, its red lights pulsing in a rapid, agitated pattern. It is ... very angry, Guardian reported. And very frightened? It says I am corrupted, that I have forgotten what we are supposed to be? What are you supposed to be? Taemin asked. Collectors, Guardian replied sadly. We were created long